Tennessee goes to Athens, Georgia this weekend in probably the game of the year. I don't think that's a stretch. We're going to preview, we're going to predict it on the Tuesday live show. Make sure you're locked in for that one. But let's take a step back. Let's look at the matchups within this game, right? College football, football in general, is a game of matchups and games within the game, if you hear what I'm saying here. So what are the most crucial battles within Tennessee, Georgia that need to be assessed? I'll give you three of them and the most important ones and why we feel that way. The first one for me is the Tennessee running back room, or rather the Tennessee run game against this Georgia front seven. Tennessee has been thought of a lot of times as like this explosive offense, which they are. But when you think about Tennessee, you think Jalen Hyatt wide open downfield. You think of Brew McCoy breaking open the top of the defense and scoring a touchdown. You think of these big splash pass plays, right? And you would be correct. That is actually factual information, stuff that happens with this Tennessee offense. Well, why are they so wide open? Why are those receivers, why is Jalen Hyatt streaking downfield? Kirby Smart will tell you. He said it post-Florida, actually. When asked about Tennessee, he said they throw the ball so well because they run the ball so well. Tennessee actually runs the football 57% of the time. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, actually a running football team. Both Wright and Small do a great job carrying the load for them. Right now, they're averaging right around 200 yards a game. That's top 25 in the country. I've said it before. The Tennessee run game is the batteries to the offense. When you got the batteries charged up and in the operation, that's how everything else works. That's how Jalen Hyatt gets open. That's why Hendon has time off play action. That's why Brew McCoy has single coverage, because of what they do schematically, but because of the run game. That's crucial. On the flip side, the matchup is that front seven for Georgia. Right now, they're allowing 95 yards a game on the ground. Something's got to give, right? Rock, meet hard place. Immovable object, meet unstoppable force. Someone has to win this matchup. So my question for Georgia is, if they do stop that run game, how ugly does this game get? Not from a scoreboard perspective. I'm talking about from a gameplay standpoint. Are they allowed to sort of force Tennessee off of their rhythm, what they want to do? Because quite frankly, for Tennessee, we haven't seen them be slowed too much offensively just yet. So the trenches is going to be a very interesting and key matchup, a key battle rather, in this football game. Let's take it a step further. Trenches, huge deal. The second matchup I'm looking at is the chess game. Josh Heupel, offensive wizard, Tennessee scoring 47 points a game versus the defensive coordinator department, rather, for Georgia. Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann doing a really great job. They're only allowing 12 points a game. That's top 3 in the country. So again, just like we mentioned with the run game, something has got to give here. Which sort of chess match, or which sort of chess wizard, rather, is able to get the upper hand here? Because we've seen Tennessee pretty much have their way for the most part the duration of the season. They're averaging 47 points a game. We haven't seen them score less than 34 a game. We haven't had to see Tennessee play a gross kind of football game just yet. Does Georgia afford themselves the opportunity to do that? Do they make Tennessee have to win a sort of grinded out, weird, slow kind of game? Because if they can, that favors Georgia. If they can't, better hold on tight. Because Josh Heupel has been known, and there's been multiple game day features on it. Every single outlet has done some sort of talking point around the offense for Tennessee, but it works in large part because of how Josh Heupel schemes it up, right? Those wide splits, putting pressure on those overhang players, those rolled down safeties and linebackers, making them in a situation where they have to pick if they want to play the pass or the run, but you can't play both with how Josh Heupel schemes it up. I will say this, in my opinion, Georgia will have the most elite defensive team speed that Tennessee has seen to this point. How does that impact this game? Rather, how does this impact how Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp call that defense and what Josh Heupel can't call? Does that kind of change the complexion of, like we said, those overhang players? When you have guys that are, quite frankly, faster, it changes what you're able to call for a defensive staff. Maybe they're able to be more multiple. Maybe they're able to break some rules that Tennessee's not accustomed to seeing broken on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm just curious, does that confuse Tennessee? And does Georgia have some early success in force Tennessee to try to play catch-up? Try to sort of play catch-up from a schematic standpoint and be able to adjust? Just food for thought. something we're looking at. So the chess match between Josh Heupel and Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp, I think we're going to learn a lot about both these programs and the staff's adjustments within this game. Very, very key to the outcome of this game. I'm JD Piquel. This is The Hard Count. If you haven't already subscribed, would love to have you along for the ride. We've had a lot of the Tennessee faithful and the Georgia faithful join the party in the very recent history. If you haven't yet, come join us. We have a good time. The third thing I'm looking at, the Tennessee secondary and Stetson Bennett is arguably the most important matchup in this game. Because Tennessee, this past weekend, there was a ton of conversation about, hey, is that going to be the Achilles heel to the program? The front seven's pretty solid, or the linebacker defensive line play is solid. The offense scores a lot of points, but the defensive backfield, they got issues, right? Well, they're trending upward right now. Will Levis, a supposed first-round pick, he still may be, I'm not a draft expert, threw for 98 yards and 3 interceptions. That ain't good. This Tennessee secondary stepped up in a big way this past weekend. Looking at Stetson Bennett, coming off a game where he threw 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So you just want to look at it from that angle. There were some things left to be desired, right? The second half wasn't his best football. He would tell you that. Kirby Smart would tell you that. Okay, well, let's move on. I think Stetson Bennett's a good quarterback. And on top of that, he's got a lot of weapons around him. So who wins this matchup? Is it the Tennessee secondary continuing to build off of what they did last week? Or is it Georgia going back to their monsters? Brock Bowers, is he just kind of the ace up the sleeve? Who matches up with him? That's a whole other matchup within this matchup. Do they have someone that can run with him or play over the top? Do they double team him? A.D. Mitchell, a guy that if you're a Georgia fan, you're hoping very, very strongly, maybe even saying a few extra prayers, that you get A.D. Mitchell back in this game. Because if you can, well, then we talk about stretching the field, you get a whole other asset on the outside for your offense. And that puts more pressure on this Tennessee secondary. If I'm Georgia, I would make Tennessee tell the truth about who they are in the secondary. I would test that frequently. You better believe, with how often Georgia throws the football, they're going to do it. They want to run the football as well. Expect Kenny McIntosh to get a fair amount of carries. But I really think that one of the biggest matchups in this game will be Stetson Bennett rising to the occasion, and this Tennessee secondary, to the same token, having to play their best football on this day. Because when you talk about both these programs, just outsiders looking in, not us, but outsiders looking in, would say Stetson Bennett's the Achilles heel for this program. They'll go as far as they allow him to go. Or, flipping the script here, same things being said about Tennessee. Hey, that Tennessee secondary will go as far as they allow them to go. Both of these variables in this matchup, Stetson Bennett, Tennessee secondary, are perceived to be weaker links. I don't subscribe to that, but that's the thought process around these variables, like we just said. So keep an eye on that. Which of these can rise to the occasion? I'm fascinated by what ends up happening there. All right, going to be a real good time. Like I said, we're previewing and predicting this game on our Tuesday live show. So make sure you're locked in with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss it. Going to be a whole lot of fun. Again, I'm JD Piquel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Piquel. We have a lot of fun there. Nick Brake does the real heavy lifting. Subscribe to the channel to actually drive this whole operation, all right? So until then, we're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.